Yeah.
also some elements within your previous books, and within that mind of yours generally. As a framework for that, I'm wondering if you would tolerate or permit a little bit of a discussion about sort of brain and psychology, just kind of lay the groundwork for where we might prod some of the themes that you bring up related to the book. So I view the brain as obviously a bunch of cells and parts, et cetera, but I distill it down to some sort of basic features. First of all, we have an autonomic physiology. I think we'd both agree on that regulates our sleepiness and wakefulness, our breathing, our heart rate, stuff that runs in the background. Mm-hmm. And then we have a lot of circuitry devoted to what I would call impulses, things that we desire, we want to move toward, appetitive behaviors, and we also have some impulses to avoid things that are putrid, painful, et cetera. That's all in there like it is in other animals.
We should talk about the idea of impulse in relationship to that characterization.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's an important point to be made on the you pay a price for characterizing that as impulse, and I'd like to explore that with you because it's crucial.
Great. We'll circle back to impulse. I'd like to do that. And then we have a lot of circuitry. People will hear about it as executive function, prefrontal circuitry, which does many things, but I like to think of as a circuit that can say, and here I'm borrowing from a previous guest who's a neurosurgeon, it can say shh, or exert what's called top-down suppression on these, what I'm calling impulses. It can...
We should talk about that too, the suppression idea and the inhibition idea in general.
Great.
Because I think there's a parallel problem there to the notion of impulse that's very much worth delving into.
Great.
Yeah.
So circuitry that's devoted to our ability to self-inhibit the desire to reach for something or to avoid something. We can push ourselves into things that would otherwise be aversive. We can avoid doing things that would otherwise drive us to, quote unquote, just do it anyway. And then we have what I think of as our default settings, kind of how we're operating in the world with respect to food, other people, ourselves, our thoughts, if we don't intervene with ourselves. And these default settings are, of course, established by both nature, a genetic program that wires up circuitry, but also nurture because of the immense neuroplasticity that occurs in the first 25 years plus of life, but especially those first years of life. And then, of course, we have neuroplasticity, this incredible gift that humans have more of than any other species as far as we know, which is we can decide to make changes.